1. The news reached the capital of the British Paris people just 10 days after the decree. There were a group of 32 Judeas that fled to the province Britain revealed the ban of their kinsmen from Rome by Emperor Claudius. The British Paris tribe were kin to the Gaulish Paris tribe. The tribe had their own king and elders, yet they submitted to Roman rule to retain their autonomy in the new province Britain. The 32 were not received in the Paris kingdom, but because it was against Roman law to refuse entrance to other Roman citizens, the Paris people redirected them to the ICI kingdom. The ICI kingdom is another British client kingdom under Roman rule. In the British Paris kingdom there was a young diplomat with ties to the kingdom Aragos, Norway. He immediately sent an envoy towards the Aragos court, with 10 pieces of silver, grain and wine. The envoy consisted out of 2 diplomats, 4 servants, the captain of the ship and 2 horses for the 2 diplomats. The sailing took only 5 days before reaching the Bay District. The diplomats urged for an import of Aragoa people into their homeland, to strengthen the ties between both countries. The judges at the Aragos court advised their leaders not to do it. They claimed it might be a trap that might lead the annexation of Aragos. They said the British Paris tribe just wants to drag us into their lot as an occupied region. The court of Aragos didn't decline the request, but they did changed it with their conditions. The Paris leadership would receive 1,800 peasants from Aragos in a 10-month period, 180 peasants a month. These would be from the ghetto regions of the Aragos towns. In exchange the Parisi were allowed to build their own consulate in Aragos, for their economic foreign policy. The diplomats agreed, because this would lead to an advantage on the economic terms. As agreed, 10 months later, 1,800 people had been shipped to the Paris people. There were an additional 1,200 criminals that were deported to Britain. The Aragos chiefs paid much grain and silver to the Paris nation to get rid of those people. In this manner the kingdom Aragos was relieved from 3,000 people within a year. At this time, Emperor Claudius had adopted Nero as his son, and the wooden bridge in London was constructed by Roman construction workers. One of the shipped people was Tamila. Her mother Pae is the queen regnant of 2 urban districts in Aragos. Her position is only ceremonial with a few economic powers attached to it. After the Lusitania Aragoa Principality was abolished, because of the assassination of King Parisius, the 2 towns remained with their traditional leadership, while being administered by the government of Aragos. Queen Pae ascended the throne because her daughter refused it. Tamila was 37 at the time and her mother 58. Tamila lived in a small town at the shores of the Paris people. Her apartment was large with 4 rooms. With her lived 3 slaves that she received from her mother, Coloae, 21, Sabrina, 24, and Verita, alleged 23. These 3 were sex slaves her mother groomed at the beginning of the reign of Parisius, which lasted only 2 years and 4 months. Except Verita. She has been in Queen Pae's district for longer. She was only 12 when she was lured to Pae's house. Her parents were pirates and never stayed long in one place. Pae sent Verita's family brass coins and bronze gifts to her parents. Her parents on turn never asked again for their daughter. After Pae was crowned, Verita became her writer and her chef, cooking and serving at parties. Now, she is cooking also, but for Tamila. Now Verita has free days, something she formerly never had. She uses those free days to visit other towns in the region and to make friends with the local population. Often she bathes in the small ponds in the forests near the shores. One day Verita was cooking some fish dish for dinner, when she saw a ship approaching. It was evening by now. From the window she saw that the ship was Roman and it had some soldiers on it. 2. Queen Pia had sent 17 Roman hired troops towards the town where her daughter was settled in the country of the British Paris people. Pia paid those troops, whom she rented from the Cimbria Legion, each 25 golden coins for a half-year's service, their daily care included in the costs. In total she paid 425 golden coins to the troops and 2,000 silver coins to their general. The troops contained mostly men from Argos that left for Gaul to seek a job in the Roman army. The Cimbria military camp, stationed in the south of Cimbria, Denmark, has 6,600 stationed legionaries, 2,000 auxiliary troops and 1130 hirelings that the governor of the military town rents occasionally to neighboring countries. The group of 17 are from those 1130 hirelings. The camp is also surrounded by small villages that were built by local civilians to benefit from the economy. The Cimbria Legion is not stationed inside the imperial borders. Their camp is aimed to guard Roman merchandise of Romans who trade in the Baltic Sea and Scandinavian region. They also aid the small client kingdoms in Greater Germany that are under Roman rule. The 17 arrived at the Parisian shore. One of them spoke to the harbour master and showed him the documents. Pia sent those troops as personal guards of her daughter and her 3 slaves. She even sealed the document with her seal as Pia the Lusitania, queen regnant of Luso Argos. Verita witnessed the scene from the window. Not knowing what exactly was going on, she did see that the troops walked further into town. After she prepared the dishes she told Tamila what she had witnessed. Tamila told her to calm down. After they all ate dinner, the slaves were cleaning up. Tamila left the apartment and found that the men were standing at her apartment complex. One of them handed her a letter. "Daughter, I received news from the Cimbria camp that Emperor Claudius will further expand Roman territory into Britain. I have sent spies to some of the towns near that camp. You know how those young slave girls are, and very attached. One of them used their charms on the guards, by pretending to be a prostitute, while the others broke in and stole some documents. Those documents, less than 3 months old, are my sources. The Paris kingdom has surrendered, but I still don't trust the situation. I'm glad you are safe and well over there. I've hired these men, skilled warriors, to defend you and your house over there. They will lodge in town and they will keep an eye on you for over a year. I've already paid them and their general. It's all settled. Meanwhile, they will also serve as a navy transportation any time you want to visit me in Jehuda town. The people here in Argos are already scared. Many expect a sudden invasion by Claudius. This is the reason they deported many people to Britain, to occupy the Roman British government with more people to take care of. By doing this the leaders of Argos hope to occupy the Roman government, so that they will delay or forget about Argos. The Cimbria Legion alone is something that's seen as a form of Roman aggression. The Argos army is not well trained to defeat a whole legion, let alone 2. Also, the location of Argos makes it quite vulnerable. If a legion from the western shores would attack and also the Cimbria legion in the eastern bay, Argos will surely be lost. Besides that, there are Scandian tribes in the east that might join the Roman camp against us. Anyway, you are safe over there. Don't be scared nor feel intimidated by these men. And please, once in a while, come over to Jehuda town. Since the death of Parrhasius, around almost 10 years ago, many Eleuso-Argos people left for Gaul. Jehuda town has only 14,000 people left. Around 9,000 left. One advantage is that I received large plots of farmland in the fjords by the leaders of Argos. It's land that became part of Jehuda's administration after many peasants left for other towns or for Gaul and abandoned their properties. So I'm planning to build small apartments on those farms, in order to rent them so that the treasury will be filled. To be honest, darling, Jehuda town is no kingdom anymore, and that was no secret. And we are almost bankrupt over here. I want to continue my lavish and indulging lifestyle, so I make my slaves work. I only have around 12,000 silver coins left and about 800 golden standards. The elders that are left are broke. If the town goes bankrupt, we will lose the little bit of autonomy we still have. If you only had a son, I could bring him over here to be installed as the ruler, as a cover-up. Only male leaders are respected here in Scandinavia, just as in the Roman world. It's even a miracle that I'm permitted to remain with my seat of influence over here. By the way, tell Verita that I miss her. She always kept me company when I was lonely, which is always, and I enjoyed the delicious meals she always made. By the way, Anna, the previous wife of King Ludo and later also the wife of his son King Parrhasius, moved back to Jehuda town. Her daughter Anna, 11 years old now, has joined her. Anna now is with some German guy she met in Cimbria. She has a son with him, Dalo, who is 5 at this moment. He is a bright boy with good language skills. If you don't get a baby soon, I'll appoint Dalo as the heir of his estate, if there will still be an estate left when he's an adult. Anyway, take care over there. If you find a handsome Parisian, who is also a member of the Royal Club, hook up with him and bring him to Argos. We will have a wedding party over here. 3. Tamila contacted the king of the Paris tribe and he agreed to permit her to receive a plot of land, more land inwards. She didn't have to pay for the land, because it was uninhabited. The British Paris people were only around 300,000 people in number, and they had around 30 populated towns and many smaller villages. Their towns were not the same as the ones in the Roman world. And the Paris nation was tribal. Foreigners were not easily incorporated into mainstream society. Iron, brass and pigs were their main export product to other British tribes, Ireland and the Rhine area. The plot of land was at large hillside covered with grass. It was also near a forest with small ponds and tiny streams. At the Paris people, women were permitted to own property, to divorce and to initiate court cases. This in contrast to the Roman world, where female empowerment was perceived as barbaric, uncivilized, humiliating and anathema, ancient Greek expiceo for accursed. Because Tamila was unmarried, she was not permitted to rent the land to others. Tamila paid Roman workers from Thrace, who migrated to the for work to the Ici kingdom, to build a small village of 12 houses, a central artificial pond, paved streets and a wooden hedge around the property. The 17 soldiers received a small house at the edge of the property to live on, separate from the village itself. The construction took only 5 weeks. They also constructed a small bath after the Roman design. Tamila decided to build the village after a Roman design, this to confuse future Roman settlers. If she made it in a Celtic style, the soldiers might raid and exploit it. If built in a Roman style, they might confuse it for a Roman villa and consequently leave it alone. After the construction was finished, she invited her mother Pae and the remainder of the household of the former Uso Arago's leader Parisius. While Tamila waited for her relatives to arrive, a war broke out in the country of the Cachuviloi. They were resisting the occupation of Rome. This, however, didn't alarm the Parisians, because the battles were mainly located in the south of the British Isles. At the same time, there were roads constructed in the land of the Paris people, also military camps were constructed. The Paris leaders enforced the Roman taxation upon their people. This was part of the deal they had with Emperor Claudius during his 16-day attendance in the new province. One day when Verita was washing some vegetables, Tamila was away, an elder man entered the village. He was joined by 2 male servants. "Good afternoon, who are you looking, sir?" "Good afternoon. Are you Tamila?" "Look. We need to talk." "About what?" "Times are changing around here. Soon the Romans will construct a capital for the Paris country." "Well, we won't be a country anymore, but a district within the province. The king announced that a large part of the Roman navy fleet will be housed in our shores also. And there's another thing, women will not be permitted anymore to have a voice in public nor economic affairs." "What are you implying?" "What I'm suggesting is that you'll either get married to a Parisian nobleman, or you leave this region and sell this village to the government. Those 17 soldiers are not loyal." "Where are they now?" "Marriage." "Will you provide?" "There are festivals coming month. Join them and you'll probably find a mate. We will be glad to receive you and incorporate you into the community. Come inside, sir, you and your slaves." They enter in. They sit at the table and she pours wine for them. While the men are conversing, Tamila arrives with the 2 other slaves. Verita explains everything, also that he confused her for Tamila. Tamila entrusted the situation unto her and she hid with the 2 other slaves. Verita cooked a vegetarian dish and served it to the men. While they were eating, she took a piece of paper with a pen. She took several of the jewelry of Tamila and put them on and went to the men. "Gentlemen, I'm willingly to make a treaty with you." "A treaty?" The men look surprised. "You see this seal over here?" She shows them a brass seal. This is a seal that used to belong to a tribal chief in western Aragos. Ludovicus was his name. He was the ruler of a mixed tribe for almost 40 years. His son, who was a half Parisian, succeeded him, but he was assassinated by his own council shortly afterwards. My family is wealthy and they are now on their way to see this new villa. They will arrive probably within 2 till 5 days from now. We have a lot of fertile land in our region, which the Aragos tribes have surrendered unto us. So, let's make a trade agreement between my household and yours. I'm sure you want to be in an advantage once the Roman occupation has furthered. Remember that the Romans have the tradition of exploiting their conquered lands. And never forget that corruption and cruelty are their native language. Many Parisians will be made slaves and forced to labor in the British mines, British industry and in the houses of Roman citizens who will migrate towards this region. So, let's help each other out here. The men think for a moment and they discuss the matter. Look, my terms are that this piece of land will remain to my household, in exchange you will receive grain and tin from our district. Tin can be bombed with the wealth of copper to make bronze. Bronze can be good for export. You guys are good with making metal art. The art of the Romans is quite boring and male-centered. You guys show more honor to your women. Well, make more bronze objects and with that you will be helping my homeland to flourish. The Parisians took in 3,000 poor people and some band people from Aragos. Jehuda town, and the Jehuda district, has around 14,000 people and we have a shortage of workers. So, I also would like you to send workers to us. The grain, which we have in abundance, can be saved as an emergency supply in case an economic recession hits. What do you say? I am fine with it. She wrote the document and sealed it. The elder man signed it also. She copied the text on another piece of paper and they did the same thing. That's finished. She was glad. Now I would like you to send your workers soon, so that when my relatives arrive, Queen Pi of Jehuda included, they can discuss business further with her servants. The men leave. After they left, Tamila and the other two come in. You did remarkably well. How did you do that? Who taught you such skills? She smiles. My parents who abandoned me were pirates. I learned from them to be opportunist and to seize every potential and every beneficial opportunity when it arrives. You never know if an opportunity would repeat itself. You don't know tomorrow. The only day you have is today. So you do what you have to do today. By the way, Tamila, your mother often talks about your former leader Ludo and his son whom he begot with his Parisian concubine. And she often tells stories of how effective those men were in governance. So I had my inspiration from them. And Tamila, I didn't plan to pretend to be in your place. From now on it's on to you and your mum to deal with these people. Tamila was surprised. You want a dish? The women eat the remainder of the vegetarian food that Verita prepared for the men. The next morning one of the 17 guards awake them. Your relatives are here. They are at the harbor and they are awaiting you. Tamila joins them and leaves the other 3 behind. 4. The elder reported his visit to the village and he showed the Parisian council the document which he signed. The other elders, 210 in total, wanted to maintain at least some of their domestic culture. After they heard that Jehuda town was led by a half-Parisian king and that some of his descendants are still alive, they became more interested. The elders discuss. When I was a young boy I heard about that town. The town became a kingdom, which included the neighboring rural region, under Ludoyahu, an Israelite. The people in that town were a mixture of Lusitias, Israelites and Aragos people. Ludo had some Parisian consorts whom he brought with him to Aragos and one of those half-Parisian kids was Parisius. About 10 years ago that guy was killed. But long before the guy even got on the throne, there was a bloody civil war between the tribes of Aragos. This reduced the native Aragos population. When Parisius died, the whole region of the small mixed tribe became integrated into the Aragos kingdom, but the mixed tribe was permitted to retain their autonomy in exchange for increasing taxes and the surrender of their military. I knew about its existence because I visited the town several times during my lifetime. I even knew Parrhasius and his brothers. Parrhasius also served in the Roman military in Gaul. He was a Roman in his thinking. I believe that this is what led to his fall. But putting that aside, their town is not the prosperous merchandise settlement it used to be decades ago. The Augustan and Tiberia era were their prime time. Now both towns, they also have a town further into the north of Aragos, are just two small towns with a lot of farmland around it as their property. Their small army is dismayed and thousands of their people left to live in Germany or Gaul. Yet, there's still potential in that town, Jehuda. My son visited the place 3 years ago. At the moment they have a woman on the throne. Paella. She is quite irresponsible, materialistic and a true attention whore in her spending. She has wasted much of the wealth of the town. According to my latest sources, the town is bankrupt and they may have tax debts to the Aragos Confederation. Is that Paella in Britain now? Yes, she is. The household of Parrhasius also. We should take advantage of this. I mean, I will not believe that those people are broke. I mean, Paella paid for hireling to guard her daughter Tamila. And those Roman hirelings are expensive. Also, her daughter financed the construction of a small village. Look, I say that we have to refrain from making too fast conclusions. The Jehuda people may be still wealthy, maybe they are not. Maybe they are bankrupt. Who cares? It's none of our concern. Britain is now under Roman domination. That is own concern. Our concern is to secure the position of our people during this transformation so that we won't be decimated by our oppressors. Fighting the Roman Principate is useless, nobody will ever win that. They also outnumber us in military capacity and in decades or better centuries of experience. Our ancestors were Gaulish Celts who migrated from the Sequa rivers to these northern shores of Britain. We didn't campaign much warfare from that time until now, because most of the rivalities between the British tribes were fought in small formation. Also, our countries here are not that populous. That's all about to change now. We will keep an eye on those Jehuda people for sure. And if we can strike ties with them we will. But we should do it without the Roman authorities know about it. Also, gentlemen, we must remember that Aragos itself is a large place. And also that Jehuda town is in Aragos and therefore it's more likely to adapt to the interests of the Aragos people. Aragos is not yet under Roman occupation. We are. That's why we can easily use that town in western Aragos as a shelter for our own wealth, both communal as private. Large sums of our harvest we can ship them towards Jehuda town. In this manner we can avoid much of the taxes and retain much of our wealth. Also, by being in contract with the Jehuda town we can rent much of the abandoned farmland over there as our foreign investment. He has a point. Look. Our families, because we and the king are in agreement with Claudius, will probably suffer the least from the Roman exploitation. Nevertheless, we cannot be certain of anything. Just be prepared to have alternatives. I don't trust any of those Romans. Many of the Parisians around the Sequa River were brutally executed by Julius Caesar and by his successor Augustus. None of us do. Nevertheless, our future and the future of our offspring are dependent upon the decisions we make today. By the way, that Queen Paella, is she married? Number. No. Not married. She has adopted a lifestyle of female idleness that's common among spoiled Roman women. We understand. So. She's not interested in men. Okay, but we cannot get into a treaty with a female ruler, folks. We have to find a way to dispose of her and put one of Parisius' children on the throne over there. And glad that you are so ambitious. How are you planning to do that? Queen Paella and some of Parisius' children are here, right? So. They are not there. Where are you going with this? We keep them here till they agree with what we want. And by the way, this is Roman region now. So they will behave. You have a point. But we must not act too hastily. Jehuda town is an option we leave open. But only to benefit our families in the area of avoiding excessive taxation. Look, the Aragos people dumped around 3,000 of their folks here. Because they wanted to occupy the Romans in Britain, right? Speak your mind. We should send a large sum of the Parisians over there too. The Romans still had no time to hold a census around here. I say we send around 5,000 Parisians over there. What about the Aragos government? Aragos is still like a confederation. It's not an organized state like Rome. So those 5,000 we send may not even be noticed by the Aragoa government at all. All right. What? That's enough for today. We now must focus upon gaining as much advantage over that Paella as possible. When they are discussing this, a poet comes forward. I will deal with that. Who are you? I am Calvin. My father used to work in Jehuda town. He had known the Parisian wife of Ludo, who is Paea's mother. Paea is not a daughter of Ludo, but of an affair Paulia had with a German soldier. Despite that, she grew up among the household as one of his own. But the scandal was there. Years back I lived in Aragos for a while and I had met Paea and her mother, when Ludo was in his last years of reigning. Paea never got along with his alleged half-brother and with nobody else of the family. I can spy for you guys. We 2C. 5. Paea, several grown children of Parisius and their spouses, 2 elders and their wives arrived at Tamila's village. With them also came the former queen consort Anna from Savaria, the widow of both Ludo and Parisius. Ludo's daughter with Anna was there at the village. She's also named Anna. She was 37 years old, which is the same age as Tamila. She, however, didn't receive anything from her father's inheritance. The 2 daughters of Anna and her former husband Parisius, Taea, 12, and Salai, 11, Anna's latest husband and their 5-year-old son joined her when she joined Paea. Anna's husband felt left out. To prevent marriage problems, she agreed to bring him too. The group moved into the village, still guarded by the 17 hirelings, and they exchanged stories. Anna's daughter Anna, let's name her Anna the younger, asked her mother permission to leave. She wanted to go into town. Her mum gave her 40 silver coins and 2 aureus coins as pocket money upon the 120 silver coins she had earned with her own job as a hairdresser and tailor. The pocket money was Roman currency from Lower Germany. The coins were minted during the time of Emperor Caligula. They were transported to Cimbria by postal services by soldiers who imported goods from the Frisian industry at the Vidrus, Dutch, Dialect, River. Anna the Younger, also nicknamed Philia, Greek mixture of familiar love and Anna, left that same evening. She rented an ass, donkey, at the harbour and travelled on a Celtic road towards the border with the country of the Courtiers. She travelled the whole night and she arrived in the early morning, around 7:20, at the border. There was a small Roman town that was erected just 2 years before. It was a Celtic settlement of less than 50 people that became transformed into a small town of 200 people. Most of the civilians were poor peasants, who lived far removed into the swamp region, that were invited by the Roman soldiers to civilize themselves by adapting to Roman life. The town had no aqueduct, but it had 7 wells nearby where the people would get their water from. Instead of a bathhouse there was a large artificial pond made inside an extended flat, with warm water. The town had 10 soldiers, recruits from among the courtiers, who patrolled through the town to police the people. At the town, there was also a small building which represented a synagogue. Among the 200 were also 41 Judeas who were expelled from Italy, in accordance to the decree of Claudius. But that's not all. There was a big famine going on in the Mediterranean region, especially in the east. Britain, being rich with natural resources and fertile land, was the easiest place for these people to flee to. And besides that, there were already Israelites living among the courtiers. The synagogue was just a large apartment complex, with 5 rooms, a bathroom, a kitchen and a basement where they hid their manuscripts, books and food supply. Every Sabbath they read from the Torah, the prophets, and they eat unleavened bread accompanied with Gaulish wine. From the town there were new roads that led to all other Celtic settlements and new Roman towns in the region. The courtiers had much gold and they decorated their streets with many religious symbols. When Philia entered the town nobody noticed her. She didn't look much different than the local women. She arrived at what seemed to be the central square of the town. There was no market and only some people were passing by. At the square was a small shop that sold meat, jewelry and bread. The shop owner didn't appear to be a local. He had Mediterranean features. "Good morning, sir." "Good morning, dear. Just call me Julius. I'm from Sardinia." "Good morning, Julius. I'm Philia." "Ah. A Greek." She smiled and got off her ass. "Please, I would like some food for this animal." "You rented it?" "Yeah. It was cheap though. 2 pieces of silver for a whole week." "That's cheap indeed. Back in Italy those animals are expensive. Some of the poor peasants have them because they breed them. But the Roman state confiscates most of them, together with the horses. For the military he packs some meat, with vegetables, and some honey in a small basket. Here you go. Just 3 copper coins please." She gave a denarius. "I don't have any copper." "Hold on. This is a fresh denarius. Less than 20 years old. How did you get this?" He is amazed. "I will give you more in exchange for this denarius. Choose some more meat and you'll get a bottle of wine with it. Bread included." After a while she received another basket and Julius also gave her olive oil, in a small bottle, and some fresh olives and Greek cheese. After that, she sat at a bench and ate. Her mule ate also. Her mule pooped also right there. She became scared anyone would find out. So she left that same moment. She walked 10 kilometers to another town nearby. This town only had around 150 people. All Britons. At arrival she saw that the town had a bathhouse. She parked her ass at a hostel. Other asses were parked there also together with 4 horses. This town was less Roman than the previous. When she stood up, she saw a Celtic girl staring at her. Hi. No response back. Only staring. She smiles and moves on. In the hostel she calls for someone. But nobody is there. She only hears the echo of her own voice. When she turns around, that same girl stands there. Hey. I'm Philia. And you? In Greek. She quickly finds out that the girl does not understand her. She tries a bit Celtic. My name is Philia. I'm from Scandinavia. I'm lodging in your town for a couple of days. And you are? Your Celtic sucks, she laughs out loud, but I'm glad you've tried. Your Greek is better. How did you learn Greek? My dad is a physician. He had to go to Greek medical courses after the Romans took over here. There he had to learn Greek, and so did most other people of this town. Our Greek isn't perfect, but it is necessary. I can understand you. So that's what matters. How did you learn Celtic? You speak with a weird accent. You said you were from Scandinavia. Which tribe? Aragos. I mean, I'm from Aragos. My dad was a Hebrew and my mom from Savaria, but I was born in Aragos. It's a beautiful country. You've been here for long? Just 2 days. My family and I arrived 2 days ago. We sailed from Aragos all the way here. I was a bit seasick when we arrived. 5 days on the sea is not fun. I am aga. Welcome to Koritaya at least, what's left of it. Is there anyone in this hostel? It's abandoned. This town is Celtic. Not Roman. It had stood here for almost 100 years. Some of the people here died when they were opposing the legions of Claudius. So that's why you have only 161 people here. 200 of them are dead. Oh dear. It's all right. Shit happens. Aga walks towards one of the chairs. You can stay here if you want. Nobody will bother. What about that bath out there? That's no Roman bath. We had our own baths even before the Romans came. I am sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. You didn't. It's just that most people here think that Rome is going to elevate us. As if our lives were only crappy before those invaders arrived. You don't sound quite enthusiastic about. Of course not. She sits down. Would you endorse some foreign military invading your homeland and demanding a lot of money from you? The Romans enslaved around 2,000 people here and they robbed land from old farmers. Nobody would like that. But I have to say, Claudius must be very desperate that he wants to take over Britain. Julius Caesar was the one who tried it around 100 years ago. And he failed miserably. Since then no Roman ruler tried. And I heard of other Roman civilians that came here that Claudius isn't loved by the Roman either. So he needs us. Britons. So we have an advantage. You're very wise. You should be and quick to adapt. And Philia, listen. Many people still have ill will towards foreigners here, especially those who resemble Romans. It will probably go away once we are used to the Roman occupation. But for now, behave here. Don't show off too much. True. I will remember the advice. I will be down here if you need me. My house is just across the street. My parents are working on the field. So make yourself at home. 6. Later that day, during midday, a large storm erupted in the region. Much rainfall and lightning as the result. At this time, Philia was bathing in the bathhouse. Aga joined her to keep the foreigner company. Later also several other women from the town joined them. They all welcomed Philia in their town. There was a Roman cohort of 100 soldiers led by a centurion, nearby, who had to hide inside their campsite. The campsite was only made for 200 troops. There were also chefs and physicians living there. The centurion, Claudius, was from Lower Germany, from a Frisian town near the Rhine. He joined the Roman army at age 11 as a means of his parents to gain acceptance by their peers. He grew to the rank of centurion quite quickly. He was stationed in the north of Corytia by his superiors to supervise the constructions of the roads. Furthermore, he had to report any form of civil unrest immediately. He was not permitted to act by his own volition. Emperor Claudius commanded the legions in Britain to behave towards the Britons. Claudius planned to annex Britain with the least resistance of its population. This was needed in order to expand the Roman world into the British Isles. Problems in Britain would cost the Roman treasury a lot of money. Money they didn't had. There were already civil uprisings in the south of Italy and in other eastern provinces due to the big famine in the eastern Mediterranean. The famine has been going on for quite some years now. The fame was first small in only Libya. But due to mismanagement of food resources by the southeastern provinces, the famine spread around. This was also due to the mismanagement of the empire's taxes by Claudius' predecessor Caligula. The invasion of Britain was also needed to pay off debts of the government and to confiscate grain from Britain for the eastern provinces. And Claudius needed a distraction from the social unrest, that also manifested into the military. All these reasons motivated him to command the invasion of Britain. Claudius had a soldier in his charge named Jared. Jared was from Dalmatia. He was a runaway slave boy who joined the army. He asked to be stationed in Britain. This because he hoped to start a new life in the new province, with the wages he collected past years. 3 years and 6 months he was in military service. Most of the goods and food he needed was provided by the legionary camp. He saved around 600 denarii. He planned to buy some land in Britain and to retire from the army. He didn't share his plan with anyone, neither that he had 600 denarii. Jared was sent in the afternoon to travel towards the bordering towns, near the district of the Paris people, to check if everything was all right. He was expected to return after 2 days. As a Roman soldier he could force hostels and inns to give him a place to lay his head. It was still raining hard, yet he got on a horse and took the ride. After like 3 hours he arrived at a small Celtic town, which still had its own Celtic bathhouse. Due to the rain, he parked his horse directly at a barn and he searched for a hostel. When he couldn't find one, he turned to the bathhouse. Inside he heard women chatting with each other. He chose not to invade but to look further. He then noticed a donkey which was parked at a building. The door was wide open. Inside he checked the rooms. It was a small hostel. One of the rooms seemed occupied. He chose to stay over there until the storm stopped. He had his 600 denarii with him. He looked outside one of the windows. There's a lot of land unoccupied. He thought, I have to apply for this at the civil court. Maybe they'll grant me the land for free. He went outside to check on the other animals. While he was there, he saw two women, he thought they were siblings, coming towards the hostel. He stood beside the entrance. Information. As he had learned. The women first ignored him. But later, the younger one came and informed about what's going on. I am Gedus Octavius Caeus, Beloit to the British Legion. I'm serving Rome under the leadership of Augustus Claudius. I'm here to inspect whether everything is at peace. Everything is at peace here. Soldier. I'm glad that you guys are concerned with us. Get inside. It will rain for a long time. 7. Queen Paeia and former queen consort Anna had been rivals ever since the time their daughters were growing up. The tension, however, began much earlier. Paeia was jealous of Anna's maid-servant Eveli, who always accompanied Anna wherever she went. She craved their friendship, which was a close, intimate yet healthy relationship. She and Eveli later became friends for a while. But after both became pregnant by the same Aragos bloke, their friendship decimated over the years. Her daughter Tamila and Tamila's twin brother Bjark both had good relations with Sir half-brother Olisipo, who's the son of her friend Eveli, Anna's servant. Adois, the father of all three kids, was seldom in the picture. He was often away sailing. So both friends, Paeia and Eveli, were received by King Ludo, Anna's husband at the time, and lived in Anna's care. They lived in a separate house, in the same complex. Anna's daughter was born the same day as Paeia's twin. Anna at the time noticed the envy in Paeia's attitude. Because she was the daughter of one of her husband's concubines, she was not permitted to avoid her. And as a consort of the palace, it was expected of her to be ladylike and to keep the peace within the social realm of the court. This later changed when Anna found out that her daughter was in an unhealthy, physical relationship with Paeia. As a consequence, Paeia was banned from the court and she had to live in a farmhouse at the sea. She was still allowed to see her children once a month, who were already in their teenage years by now, but not to remain at the court. Anna's daughter, however, kept the relationship with Paeia going. She became quite attached to her older lover, who was possessive of her. Paeia decorated her with expensive gifts, necklaces, earrings, nose rings, bracelets, belts, sandals. Paeia often received such items from her former lover Adois, who was often looting other ships with his gang. These gifts were expensive jewelry and Roman coins that were part of the bounty. After 4 years, Anna permitted her daughter to cohabit with Paeia. Anna did this to appease Paeia's jealousy, which was really caused by her own loneliness and estrangement from her own mother, who rejected her since childhood. Another part was to hide the embarrassment of the situation. Her daughter would often remain away for days without admitting where she was. Anna also didn't want her daughter to be labeled as unclean and vile by the elders of the tiny Jehuda kingdom. The elders followed the Torah strictly. So if they would find out about what was going on between Ludo's daughter and his alleged daughter through a concubine, to the public both were Ludo's daughters and they were seen as sisters, they would force Ludo, in obedience to the Mosaic law, to ban those two women or to stone them. Anna didn't want all that drama. A part of the deal was that Anna made with Piea was that she would prevent her daughter from becoming pregnant. Also, Piea had to behave herself and leave and be satisfied with her daughter alone. Ludo was not even consulted into the matter. He was too busy with foreign trade in Britain and the Rhine region. Anna knew that he would be upset with the arrangement. When Anna's daughter was 22, she would appear at ceremonies as Princess Anna. She made a lot of friends quickly. Tamila shared the same bitterness as her mother. Only hers was towards Princess Anna and not towards Queen Anna. This, however, led to fights between Tamila and Piea, because Piea didn't tolerate anyone talking bad about her slave girl, not even her own daughter. When Princess Anna turned 28, she held a big feast in Britain. It was in a town called Vita Isorum, the capital of the Ici tribe. It was attended by many peasants in the region. She left her mother and her mother's new husband behind in Savaria. Her mother was no queen consort anymore. She remained 19 days in Britain. Piea, who received the throne of Jehuda town, because of her daughter's refusal, heard that Princess Anna was in Britain. Princess Anna had no idea of the developments that took place in her hometown after she left with her mother, her stepfather and two younger half-sisters towards the shores of the Baltic Sea. Her migration to Britain was to start a new life. She only used her previous title princess for her own advantage. In the Roman world, noble women, or women who were perceived as noble, had certain advantages that were denied to other women. On the 16th day of her stay in Vita Bulgarum, Piea found her in the company of some men. Her jealousy exploded. She kept it hidden for Anna, whom she also called Philia. Philia was surprised to see her. Piea pretended she was happy for her new life. But on the 18th day of Philia's stay, some of the young men and two elder men were found dead by poisoning. Philia immediately suspected Piea. And she found evidence. She found the snake poison in Piea's pocket. Piea confessed and regretted what she had done. Worse, the men were murdered at her feast. She decided to leave town the next day. The punishment for such crimes was long-term imprisonment or death. She knew that the Roman penal system was very harsh and impartial. Her plan to begin a new life in Britain and to find a wealthy Roman man was ruined. She sailed back, as Piea's captive, to Jehuda town. On the ship she discovered that it was Piea now that was the head in the town and that she also had other lovers. Philia, however, wasn't angry nor upset. She just adapted to the situation. Piea's son Jack didn't want anything to do with her. He was embarrassed of her repulsive lifestyle, drunkenness and lots of wild partying. Philia received a central position in Jehuda town and she was the public spokesperson, also towards the elders. Philia was the one also talking with the merchandise agents who were trading with the town. When a delegation from the capital of Argos came, it was Philia that would receive them. Paeia remained out of the public eye also because people didn't like her, but they kept it hidden out of respect for her children who were respected people among the Aragos rich. Adois returned and lived as a guard in Paeia's court. She did this to cover up her lifestyle by having a husband in the picture. When the news arrived that Claudius had subjected most of Britain, Paeia sent her children away to the Paris country. Philia would often visit the twin with news from their parents. Adois was also the father of 4 other children, who now also lived in Jehuda town. The bitterness of Tamila towards Philia disappeared after she migrated to the Paris country. And Tamila received some of the girl slaves her mother sent her as a gift. Most of them Tamila gave their freedom once they arrived in Britain. Some she retained as house servants for herself. Now at the village of Tamila, the women seem to have gotten over their ill feelings. They chat peaceful and laugh together with the others. Parisius too, whom the former King Parisius had with a Parisian daughter of a known businessman, was there with his Parisian wife. He noticed the calm attitude between his former mother-in-law and the usurper of his throne as he called Paeia. He never accepted how she ruined his grandfather's tiny country. He was planning to reverse all of that. But everything on the right timing, he said that bitch will not last for long. 8. That night 2 cargo ships from Lower Germany, containing military supplies, crossed the North Sea. The ship came from the industrial complex of Vlaardijk. The supplies were ordered by the military staff in Camelidum, Chichester, which at the time was the capital of Roman Britain. The cargo ships entered a small harbour at a Celtic village at the beach, close to Camelidum. They arrived early, a few minutes before sunrise. At arrival, slaves transported the goods unto land under the supervision of 20 Roman soldiers. The 2 captains received their payment, 500 denarii each. An hour later, the same slaves brought boxes with grain, herbs, spices and closed vessels with beer. The loading took 2 full hours. Afterwards, the captains lift their sails to return to Flium. This cargo was meant for the legionaries stationed at Frisia. The grain, herbs, spices and beer was confiscated as taxes from the extended farmers who lived near the provincial capital. They are used for the sustenance of the military. The slaves were often former small farmers who were unable to comply with the tax claims of the governor, so they were sentenced to 1 year forced labor to pay of their debts to the Roman state. Their lands were also taken away and are now used to construct roads and small postal offices. It has been almost 7 years since the invasion of Britain by Claudius. Many tribes adapted slowly to the occupation, and consequently Roman life became an object of interest to them. Some became extreme in becoming Roman. A part of the supplied were transported towards the centurion camp of Julius, in the region of the Corytias. Julius received all of it and distributed them among the soldiers. That evening Jared returned to the camp. He reported everything is calm and at ease, and he brought some of the fruits of the hostel with him. There are no signs of any civil unrest. Good. Julius replied, take 20 men with you and go into the country of the Paris people. I received a strange message from the governor Publius that a wealthy Parisian noblewoman hired 17 hirelings from the Cimbria legion. Those 17 men are still there. I was ordered by the governor to send you to check out what's going on. It's not usual for non-Romans to hire Roman troops, unless they are Roman citizens by contract or they are sons of client kings who grew up in Rome. This woman, I believe they call her Queen Pie, paid a large sum of money in gold. So she is quite wealthy. If you find her, don't arrest her yet. Just command those 17 hirelings to retreat towards the capital. Governor Publius will receive them, instead capture her in the town or place where she's at by surrounding the place. The governor wants to know if she's a real political figure or if she's just a puppet used by the Parisians to revolt against Rome. If you find out that she's a puppet, then report it immediately to me. Then I myself will lead an invasion and punish the Parisi for rebelling. If she's a political figure, then the governor himself will go to negotiate her surrender and the taxation of her wealth. Yes, sir. Jared immediately selected 20 cavalrymen and they left on their horses. The weather was a bit cold this night, but it was dry and therefore beneficial to the horses. At midnight they arrived into the country of the Paris people. They followed on a Celtic road and they found a small village, a bit hidden near a large forest. The road had Roman signs on each Roman mile. By this they knew the region was explored by the military. When they approached the village they saw several hirelings. They commanded the hirelings to join them. What's going on here? Jared inquired. Whose villa is this? This is the village belonging to a foreign princess. Her name is Verita. Verita, the cavalry spoke amongst themselves. That's a Latin name. Who is this Verita? Jared continued. She's a slave of a usurper of a tiny Scandinavian tribe, living in Urgios. The usurper is Queen Paea. Queen Paea hired us to this place to guard her daughter who migrated to this place. Verita is in this village. So is Queen Paea, who crossed the North Sea, to visit her daughter. Other people of the noble household are here too. How long will they stay? That's not clear. That tiny tribe in Aragos, how far is it by sailing? Around 4 days of 6, depends on the wind. It's in a mountainous coastal region. They only have one big town named Jehuda town. And there's another smaller town, further in the north of Aragos, also belonging to them. They have a lot of farmland around Jehuda town. But their inhabitants are few. Jehuda town. Yeah, the leaders of that town are Jewish. Ah, I see. Jews. Jared thinks for a while. Look. Go back to guarding these people and report everything relevant to me. I'll be in the closest town nearby. The cavalry left. Just after they left, Philia returned on her ass. She also had Aga, her new friend, also riding on an ass besides her. They didn't even notice the cavalry that left before they arrived. This because they took a shortcut. Aga. This is the village I was talking about. It looks good. Well, let's go inside. Aren't people asleep now? Yes. But we'll be quiet. They parked their asses near a small barn. And they walked inside the house where Philia remained. Aga returned outside to gather some honey she claimed was in an abandoned beehive. Inside she encountered Queen Paea, who was awake. She was undressing herself. Paea. Where have you been? I've been looking for you. I've been away for 2 days. Didn't my mom tell you? She didn't. She then looks outside the window. Who is she? Just a friend of mine. Aga. What is she doing? She's gathering some honey. This late. She saw some abandoned beehive, she claimed. It has been a while. Indeed. Where are you heading this late? Everyone is asleep. Except Parisius' son. What about him? He has been arguing and complaining how I ruined his grandparents' heritage by indulging all these years in all those useless activities. So. He wants his crown and the whole estate of Jehuda town. What about the treaty we made with the king of Aragos? That king had died years ago, love. So the treaty is nullified now. So he wants to restore the old days of Jehuda town. Yes, that's it. When they are talking, Aga enters in with 2 beehives filled with honey. She gives them to Philia. Philia tastes it and puts a bit on Paea's tongue. Delicious. Paea didn't eat honey for a while. Aga. This is Paea. She's an elder lady and leader of my hometown. Nice to meet you. I'm Aga. After that, Philia brings Aga to their room and returns back to her conversation with the usurper. Exactly how is he claiming to regain what he never had? He wants to impregnate me. You, she laughs. He does know that you. He knows very well. But that's his condition. I have to bear his next children. That's if you manage to get pregnant at this age. He is stubborn. He has a point. In Aragos, a male leader will evoke more respect. And more hostility. Yet. A male leader is it's more honorable in their sight. Well. What if I can't conceive? That's why I had another idea. What? You should replace me as Queen of Jehuda. Number. As his side wife to impregnate. That comes as a big surprise. Why not? Well. His grandfather is my own father. That makes me his great aunt. He is not a young boy. He's 25. And married. So was your father. Where are you going with this? You're unmarried, right? Yeah. Years back you tried to settle. In the hope to find some Roman man. At the time. There was only a small Roman settlement there. It was before Claudius' invasion. That's not the point. You want to settle down. Just conceive his baby. If it's a son, he'll be glad. Then I can abdicate and allow him to succeed me. Tamila is only whoring around and not being serious with having a family. If you get him a son, you'll become the next queen consort of the region. You already have experience with public ceremonies and with attending conventions. I am not sure his wife will be happy with that. Look. Just lay with the guy. When his wife finds out, she will do her best to get pregnant herself. Paea number. I won't do this. This goes way too far. Look. You wanted to usurp the crown after the death of Parisius, so you did. Tamila declined on your behalf. And you got what you wanted. Now you have to deal with the consequences. I'll be willing to remain a kind of prime minister for you in Aragos. No problem. Just not this. All right. Fine. I'm glad you have integrity. I sure don't. She sits on a chair, undressed, eating some of the honey. Look. Tamila isn't planning on returning to Aragos. I believe that soon she'll hook up with some Roman soldier her and probably die as a Roman woman over here. That's how I see it. Those other two slaves of yours might probably do the same. Parisius heir is campaigning for his lost heritage. Your son and daughter both have gone their way. Where does that leave you? Paella. You sound a lot like your father, you know. He was also such a wise person who often thought ahead. Look. Paella. Those old days you had are not coming back. Get real. She then noticed her tone was a bit harsh. I am sorry. I'm just a bit sleepy. I don't blame you. I wasn't the best mistress to you either. I promised your mum to behave in exchange for living with you over there. And I did. But I couldn't contain myself after Ludo's death. Despite me disagreeing with him. He was an honorable man. He was my stepdad, yet he never treated me any different than you. Well. Anyway, what are you suggesting? Send me back to Aragos. You can sort if our with Parisius heir or with his wife. I don't care. Let me sail back to Aragos. I like it over there. I want to marry one of Olisipo's sons. And if you want, you can remain living here. With your daughter. I don't know where my mum and her family will go. But that's their business. And when Parisius is finished, he can return to Aragos and I'll move with my future husband and he can have his estate. I want to have that farmhouse of yours. Where we lived. Fine, you can have the whole place. And the money that's still hidden in that home. I just want one thing in return. What? That girl you just brought. You never change. Do you? That's me. Well, if you wanna make your move. I won't stop you. Just don't involve me with it. I had enough of those things. Really? Fine, fine. She stands up with a honey beehive. And walks nude towards the stairs. Tell one of the guards that you want to return. The keys are on the table. You can leave any time you want. Tomorrow evening is a good timing. Great. 9. The next evening Verita, the Latin nickname of Filia, said goodbye to everyone and she left with two of the guards, the two slaves whom Paella gave to her daughter, in a cargo ship towards Aragos. One day after her departure, another written report came into Julius. It was sent by one of Jared's men. Sir, I have investigated this case. That Paella is a noble woman from a Jewish town in Aragos. That town is a client kingdom of the Kingdom of Aragos. Paella's kingdom is wealthy with agricultural resources. 2 of the 17 hired guards left yesterday with Verita, who is the chief slave of Paella. According to the guards that left behind, she was sent back as ruler in Paella's place. She was about to be married to a noble young man. The Hebraic town in Aragos is almost bankrupt, but they still have much gold and silver hidden as a reserve. The delegation in the Paris country will soon leave back to Aragos. They were only there to visit the daughter of Queen Paella, Princess Tamila. Tamilia is unmarried. According to their customs, Tamila is the heir of Paella. But that's uncertain now that one pretender to the throne is demanding marriage with Paella. The local Parisian government is not involved with this case. They only permitted Princess Tamila to construct her village. Verita is the daughter of a previous chief of their coastal kingdom. So, sir, I'm not sure how this will turn out. It can be that Verita will take her father's heritage, which will result in more conflict. And those people are now in Roman territory, so the conflict might turn out in bloodshed. Or things will go at ease. I am awaiting your instructions, sir. At the same Julius received a message from the governor. There were around 24 Roman citizens from Gaul who desired to settle in the new Roman colony, which was the capital of the province. They would come with their household. Together they would constitute around 429 people. Also, there were rumors of 301 Hebrews who were fleeing to Roman Britain to escape persecution in their hometowns. The governor also heard that at one of the towns in the north of the Corytia country, there was a small Hebrew community. Julius was commanded to keep that community in check. If needed, he had to arrest the local rabbi and imprison him in the capital. No deviance from the Roman culture was to be tolerated within Britain. Julius became scared. The arrival of Hebrew refugees would bring a lot of criminality and illegal immigration. Also, the ethnic tensions would also bring civil unrest. He didn't want to deal with the issue at the time. He instead wrote a command to Jared to leave the Aragua migrants alone. He was however commanded to station himself at the harbor. If Queen Paia wanted to leave or others of the household, they were to be arrested and brought to the capital. If they didn't attempt to leave, they were to be left alone and if needed protected. Jared received the message. He was confused. Yet, he did as was ordered unto him. The 20 men with him settled camp at the harbor. The remaining 15 guards were also informed about the order. One of the guards leaked the information out to Anna. And Anna in turn warned Tamila and Paia. They all became frightened. Tamila told them not to talk about it with the others. We shouldn't act in panic now, this situation can easily escalate. True, but what do we do? Hold on. The Roman general Publius Ostorius Scapula is the governor of Britain at the moment. His father was connected to the Praetorian Guard, the private police of the emperor. I heard that his father was also stationed in Egypt. So this man has experience in politics and in the military. He must understand how dangerous this circumstance is. He is loyal to Rome. Remember that. Exactly. That's why he will act in the agreement with Rome. So, if Rome can expand their territory and influence any further, wouldn't they do it? Of course they would. They got a big army for that. And that's their weakness. How weakness? The Romans will have to unify the British tribes under one provincial government, and gain their trust, if they ever want to incorporate Britain in their civilization. For now, they can use military power in the south of the island. But they cannot persist in only using violence. They will have to interact. Sooner or later. This order to keep us in Britain comes from the governor. No centurion or other lower-placed military agent is permitted to act on their own. The general has to be alert of everything. So what does Ostorius want? Money and influence. Submission. He needs to secure the harmony among the British tribes. He wants cooperation. Then we'll give it to him. Pay him tribute. I don't trust him. Neither do I, but this is not a case of trust. This is a case of practical reality. Ignoring this order might get us killed and we'll never get out alive. She's right. But we'll wait for a while. After Verita has arrived in Aragos, she will send us a message back and she'll send supplies. If we act too soon, it will look suspicious. Also because we shouldn't even be aware of this order in the first place. She's speaking truth. Let's be wise as serpents, as Christians would often say. 2 days passed and Philia arrived in Aragos. She was glad to be at home again. She missed the place. The elders in town recognized her and received her warmly. She wasted no time and moved into the abandoned farmhouse. It was still in a good state. Inside she relived her youth, both bad and sad moment. Instantly, she felt disconnected from the place. It didn't felt nor seem comfortable nor homely at all. It felt strange, awkward and even hostile. It was now that she was confronted with the abuse she endured at the hand of Paia, with the consent of Anna, her mother. She, however, didn't feel any bitterness. She had let it go. She found closure. Go into town and bring Olisipo's sanity here. I want to see him speedily. 10. In the 4th day after the departure of Verita, 5 ships entered the harbour near Cumuloduum. Also in the Paris country many ships entered. They contained many passengers from Gaul. The government assumed they were all Roman citizens that were attracted to the new province. But within days after their arrival most of them disappeared. The governor didn't pay much attention to it. More migration from the other provinces, especially Gaul, seemed beneficial to the agenda. Yet, it became clear that many of those migrants were poor people from ghettos and banned Jews, from Rome, that fled to the new province under fake identities. They also brought their religion with them. Jared was still stationed in his camp at the beach. He witnessed many refugees pouring into the harbour past days. He was not appointed to regulate the harbour, only to prevent certain people from leaving. One day, he left his troops behind. I to be patrolling near the roads, he told them. I to be back within a day. He, instead, went towards the Celtic hostel where he hid his 600 denarii. At arrival, the hostel was still empty. After taking his money, he rode towards the capital, which was against the orders of the centurion. He asked a permit to speak to the governor. He was given an appointment the next morning. The next morning he requested the governor to permit him to purchase land. The governor was not against his request, but the governor insisted him to be married first. Publius didn't want the locals to get the feeling they were being excluded. If you will marry a local, you can choose a land in Britain. It will be registered over here, and as a soldier loyal to Rome, you can be guaranteed of protection for your property. What shall be the price? At the moment you can spend your savings for the construction of your house. The land will be given to you for free in exchange for a yearly taxation of 20% of your crops. When you're not present you must have slaves who will work for you, so that when the tax collectors arrive, they can confiscate what belongs to the state. I agree with the terms, Governor. I request thee to grant me a plot of land in the district of the Paris people. They have a lot of fertile, uninhabited, unused land. Near their coastal settlements there is enough space for a new industrial complex too. At the moment I'm stationed, under the command of Centurion Julius, at a coastal village at the sea. There's trade going on between the Paris people and Argos and Cimbria. Maybe it's also a practical location for a navy base. Now I understand your motive for desiring land. You want to become a politician and benefit from the coming business in Britain. Well, I am glad you are so enthusiastic for Rome's glory. More troops should be like you. I admire you. But let me warn you ahead that this whole project of subjecting Britain is nothing but a miserable attempt to save the empire. This, young man, is nothing but a distraction. This project is costing the state a lot of money. Furthermore, a lot of famous politicians only gave consent to this project to forget about the scandals that Caligula brought on the empire. Caligula almost destroyed the heritage of Rome by declaring Alexandria the new capital. Yet many citizens throughout the empire are resisting this expansion of the Pax Roma, Latin, Roman peace, into the British Isles. It's only the senators and the Praetorian Guard that are fully behind this. Emperor Claudius and his successors will have to invest a lot in Britain in order to make it attractive for Roman citizens to migrate to the future colony cities. I, myself, am completely in agreement with the emperor. These people here need civilization. And we are the ones burdened to give it unto them. Sir, if you permit, I would like to purchase some slaves in order to work for me. Slaves are costly and expensive, soldier. As I mentioned before, I want you to find a wife first. We need to promote the family system, in order to make an appeal to the tribes here. The family is the foundation of every community. Rome is aware of this. It's for this reason that we have those barbaric, inhuman, disgusting practices as infanticide, mass murder of babies. When parents are not willing to be responsible for their children, they will pour out their frustration upon those children. Once a child or a young individual has become the center of contention, others will use them as an target also to pour out their contention. Those individuals will grow up being possessed with hurt, and they will cause problems. That's why we permit men to decide till a few weeks after the birth of his child, if he wants it dead. If he wants it dead, he can leave it behind on a specific forum. And we have our people who will do the killing for them. In this way, the parents and relatives are relieved from the guilt of sacrificing the innocent child. The state takes the blame. And they can now blame the state. And they can be united as a community, loyal to the same government that they blame. Humans have the deep need inside to be taken care of, from birth till the grave. After birth it's the mother who takes care of the infant, the father takes leadership later on in the development, and then it comes to the government. What Rome does is, it wants to usurp the place of the father, so that the government becomes the father and the empire becomes the great motherland. That's why we perpetrate the worship of the mother goddess. It provokes the deep need of the human to be taken care of. And then by provoking the population to be afraid by false flag attacks and hoaxes, we generate the need to be relieved from pain. And then comes the army of Rome and the Roman state. Relieving them from danger, it's a simple game. It always works. It has been done by the Egyptians, Assyrians, Canaanites, Hittites, Mycenaeans, Chinese, Indians, Mayans, Babylonians, Medes, Persians, Parthians. But nobody has managed that art of deception better than the Romans. That's why we are superior. Our country contains 20% of all living humans on the face of the earth. And our dominance has a direct impact on almost a third of the human race. Nobody can defeat Rome. No one ever tried, so when I tell you to get a wife, I'm not standing in your way. I'm telling you how things work. We need to decimate and frustrate the role of fatherhood, in order to replace fatherhood with statehood. Why do you think that when Rome annexed Gaul, they massacred 10,000s of men, especially young men? By doing this you will create a big deficit of men. With that you have a deficit of fathers, husbands and leaders. Exactly this way the men that are left are more prone to adapt to Rome. And that's what the peoples of Gaul did. Within 50 years they were fully integrated into the empire. They even became important leaders into the Roman world. The same we will do to the people of Britain. Divide and conquer, and afterwards divide and rule. A minister enters the door and winks for the governor's attention. For now, soldier, return to your position. And when you have found a wife, report it. And immediately you'll receive land. For now you are dismissed. After saluting each other, they depart. 11. After Jared left, a big fight broke out among the conquered tribes. A small portion of militia revolted against Rome. Jared was already in the district of the Paris people when it happened. So he didn't receive the report to join the battle. So he and his 20 men were still stationed at the coastal village, which is near the village of Tamila. When he passed by Tamila's village he decided to stop by. He arrived on his horse on the artificial pond. It was on that same moment that Paella came forward to see him. She spoke Latin, "Salut soldier. I'm surprised to see you here, sir. What's going on?" "Marum. I'm Jared Caius, a legionary, stationed with 20 cavalrymen at the coastal village, just 20 minutes away from here. I'm ordered to maintain civil order in this district." "There's no civil unrest here, sir." "I am glad with that. That makes my job easier. May I request thee to bring your husband forward?" "My husband is not present, sir." "He never was." "Then who owns this villa?" "This is an inheritance I received from him. Like a gift he left me years ago. You will need to register your town as soon as the government is established and in function in Parisia. I can warn you that if your husband is not around to register himself and his household, this villa might be confiscated and you'll end up as slaves. Come inside." For a moment, Jared, against his orders, enters into the house. The others greet him. Paella signs them to leave. "Look, soldier. I know full well why you're here. I'm not stupid. You are an agent sent to find out if I'm wealthy in order to tax me. Look. We'll not be here for long. We will leave soon. And that's why you are stationed at the harbor. To prevent us from leaving." Jared was surprised about how alert she was. "Look. You are a legionary soldier. You earn around 1 dearie every 2 days or every 3 days. You are not from here. You are probably somewhere from an Eastern Roman province. You are weeks away from home. From your family, and you are here defending your country, which is the empire. If it was you, you would probably just want to be at home with your relatives, enjoying life. Instead of being here risking your life for some bastard called Claudius and some filthy rich senators who don't even know who you are. And worse. Even if they did know who you are, they don't give a damn about you, she continued after drinking some wine. Are you that stupid? Jared. Why are you permitting yourself in this situation? All right. I understand. It's easy to join the Roman military. The Imperial military complex is big business. Also, you can easily get into politics or business afterwards, so tell me. What's your plan? My plan. Yes. Your plan. You were not sent by your commanders to visit me. Yet here you are. Paella. I'm not planning to do this job for long. I enjoy being a soldier and defending the empire. Nevertheless, I noticed how this system works. My life is not of much value to them. They expect me to die quickly to advance the agenda of Rome. That's what I'm for. So, I wanted to be stationed in Britain, so to be able to get some land quickly before the Roman rule is effectively established here. I wanted to do it as a soldier, to gain protection from the state against the locals. I have nothing against the locals. I just want to have a better life. My relatives were abusive to me. And I'm not loved in my hometown. I have shaken the dust of my feet and moved on with my life. Britain to me is like the promised land for the Israelites that Moses, God's servant, led out of the bondage of Egypt. I am not like many of those Israelites that persisted in unbelief against the Most High. No. I have faith, and because of my faith I'm willingly to take risks for the good. Look, Paella, I could have lied towards my superiors and loot this whole place. I'm not into that. So, help me out here. Paella was so amazed by his boldness and calmness. Jared. I'm getting older. I'm growing into a sour old bitch who is always dissatisfied all the time. I cannot be of any good help to you. All I can say is that I have a former slave girl who is now in Argos, in my hometown, and she is governing the economic affairs on my behalf. She is still single and she is delicate. I'm officially the queen regnant of my hometown and the nearby region. But the town is almost bankrupt. I send my twin children to live here. In order to have an excuse to emigrate to this place, in case this region ever becomes a Roman province. Argos is a beautiful place. Yet there are blood feuds and tensions between the regional communities. It's a kingdom held together by avoiding conflict and by fighting against smaller tribes who are not part of the confederation. It's that and the trade with Roman Gaul that keeps Argos together. My home district is left alone because we are beneficial for trade. When that is gone, what else do I have? So I thought it was better to flee to Rome. Something I thought I would never do. Yet here I am, an alcoholic, sour, nagging urge. I'm messed up. Well, you did help me with something. With what? You made me realize why I'm here in Britain and why I'm here in this place. What are you talking about? You mentioned how sour and bitter you are and that you wanted to flee to Britain to get refuge under Roman rule. You also mentioned that your home district is going bankrupt. So, well, I always wanted to be a sailor and a trader. My motive was to find some land here and to become a farmer, to trade goods on the North Sea. I wanted to be a merchant in the Mediterranean region. But that never worked out for me. Instead, I ended up in the military, doing dirty work, for long hours, being underpaid and having to put up with frustrated bosses. But it all led to me being here. Being able to accomplish my dream. Your dream. Yes. Look. I will buy a large piece of land in Parisia. I want to make an agreement with you that you will buy and import my goods into your region. Then I have a land and also export, and by having export, I have income and I'm established here in Britain. Also, your hometown will flourish and it won't go bankrupt. Paella thought about it. And she smiled, for the first time since a while. Jared, you made my day. When you began talking about Moses and the Israelites. I don't know. It is as if some demo inside of me became uneasy with you. But the more you spoke, the more at peace I felt. I haven't felt that peace for a while. The last time I felt that peace was years back. When some Spanish zealots entered Aragos and began to preach some message about a risen Savior. I never gave in to their message, but it did had an impact on me. And the same power I sensed with those people I also sense with you. I feel safe around it, despite me also being repulsed and terrified by it. Well, maybe it's the demos I have inside of me. Who cares? Look. I'm all in agreement with you, just marry Verita, my former slave lover. She is still fertile and she never married anyone. She's a lovely girl. If you marry her and you frequently visit Aragos to visit her, I'm all in with it. In that way, I can also abdicate and let Verita take over the throne. In Aragos they don't have much problems with female rulers, as long as there's a man around to force respect of the people. Is there a pretender to the throne also here? You mean the son of Parisius? That guy only wants to become a politician. His father didn't permit him to join the Roman military. He was quite sour because of that. When his father was assassinated, he took vengeance and killed the elders who did it. As a result, he had to flee to Britain. It's her that he met his wife. He later returned to Aragos and after years he returned back to Jehuda town. He just wants to become important. He wants to be a politician. I am thinking about something better. What? I too buy a plot of land over here. You and the other can live on it. I will divide it between all of you. And I will grant Parisius' son a large sum of land. Meanwhile I will be married to Verita. And I will be traveling a lot on the North Sea. Between Britain and Scandinavia. And between Britain, Scandinavia and the Rhine region. Selling my goods. When you abdicate you can remain living in Britain as a noble woman. And Parisius' son will become a nobleman within the Privy and in Aragos. So, there's double gain for him and it won't cost him anything. You want a win-win situation? I do. Well. Do what you have to do quickly. Because I have the feeling that more wars will be fought in Britain before it will be a full Roman province. When will you sail to Aragos? It might be better if she came here. Paella shouts in Hebrew, Anna, Tamila, Parisius, we need to make ourselves ready. We are going to Jehuda today. In Latin, I will go to my hometown and arrange it with Verita. If it works out and she is willing. You will know quickly. She hands him 2 aureus coins. Just make sure your men don't report us leaving. They won't. He takes the coins. I am their commander. Right. 12. Olisipo didn't permit his sonity to marry Philia due to the age difference. He preferred his son to have a younger bride of the same age or younger than his son. Olisipo was also aware of her past with Paella. He was suspicious that this was a plot of Paella, to gain Olisipo's heritage, and that her lover was only a puppet in the scheme. Philia was not upset about it. She accepted the rejection as a redirection to something better. She said, in the past I held on to whatever felt comfortable way too long. Not only with Paella. Also with other people and with other stuff. I'm not doing that again. Now when the good has to go. To make place for better. I will give up the good for the better. Not everything that you felt was good, Philia. It felt good to you because it was the best you were aware of. An elder tells him, I admire your willingness to receive better. More people should have that attitude. Continue on this path. Those words of validation meant a lot to Philia. It cheered her up. She made a long walk through Jehuda town. She noticed that the town was quite Roman even though it was not on Roman-dominated soil. She entered the palace of King Ludo, where Queen Anna used to reside together with her co-wives during Ludo and Parisius' reign. The palace was still in a good state. There were cleaners and servants who still maintained the place. She entered a room which was the room of Eveli, the mother of Olisipo, during her time as the slave of Queen Anna. The room still looked the same. Inside she noticed a small wardrobe. When she opened it, she saw a lot of drawings made by Eveli. Her mother, Queen Anna, told her about the close friendship she had with Eveli. She also met Eveli and Olisipo often during her youth. When she was at the palace, a young civilian reported to her that Paella and some others arrived and wanted to see her. 8 days later Verita was in Camelliduum, with a soldier named Jared, a Hebrew, at the civil court. There they made a ceremony, which afterwards the civil judge deemed them in a matrimony. Paella and Parisius too were the witnesses of the wedding. The wedding gave Jared relief for 1 year from his military duties. At the same time, Olisipo, Eveli's son, commanded his sonity to take over Jehuda town and the nearby villages of the Aragos people. This was done with a group of 300 armed men. The villages surrendered without a fight. They received grain and brass gifts in return for their loyalty to Ati, who now was crowned King Olisipo I. In total the area Ati conquered contained 22 villages which together had 20,000 people. That added to the 12,310 people of Jehuda town. The conquering was finished within 3 days. 2 days after the conquering, this was a week after the wedding of Jared with Verita, King Olisipo sent an envoy to Camelliduum, of 22 men, with tribute for the governor of Britain. Jared had not yet consummated his marriage, this because the marriage was only meant as a means to pacify the relations within the Jehuda noble house and for Jared to gain his land in Britain. Verita, now, remained at the capital of Britain, together with the others. Jared was searching for land together with other Roman citizens who were also looking for a new place to settle themselves. The apartment Verita stayed in was not that big, but large enough to be comfortable. The walls were also heated at night so that she was not hurt by the cold weather. Jared was planned. The marriage was only a means, Verita accepted the offer with the hope to change his mind later on. She also agreed with the offer because she didn't want to end up alone. Jared was planning to annul the marriage after his land was purchased. He planned to pay Verita 300 denarii as compensation. 13. The envoy of King Olisipo arrived within 4 days after departure. They were dressed like Romans and they had golden necklaces and silver sings. They asked for audience with the governor. The governor received him and he understood the situation in Jehuda town. Within 2 hours Paia was informed by those men that she was no longer queen regnant, yet she was permitted to return and live in Olisipo's domain. Parisius too immediately requested to pledge allegiance to the new ruler, in exchange for farmland. Jared was informed a day later about the matter. He didn't bother about it because he already found a large land at the southern shores of Britain. The governor of Britain permitted the envoy to establish a small consulate in the capital. 4 days later the government assigned a large land to Jared. This also added another 2 years that he was fired from his military duties to farm his land. His matrimony was also annulled by a civil judge. Verita received 300 denarii from Jared and another 500 bronze coins from the government for her cooperation. Paia, Anna and her children, Parisius and his spouse and the other siblings of Parisius and their spouses, were all deported to Jehuda town within a week after the arrival of the envoy. Verita was also deported, but she sailed in another ship. When the envoy returned, they brought the good news to the king. The other provinces in Aragos acknowledged King Olisipo's land grab, because of his alleged connections with Rome. They were scared that he might had some Roman troops on his side. Olisipo received 400 slaves as tribute by the king of Aragos. He immediately armed them and appointed them as guards around his territory. 20 troops on each place. They lived in small camps of 3 wooden houses. Parisius's children all received small plots of land in the region and they sealed their properties with wooden benches. Verita lived in the palace of Ludo and Parisius 21 days after the return of the envoy. 75 lone troops from Britain arrived to aid King Olisipo. It was then that Verita heard that Jared married another woman and that his wife was pregnant. With this she gave up her hope to become a British Roman civilian. The troops also send another message for Olisipo. Emperor Claudius' ban of the Hebrews from Rome led to many problems in the Mediterranean provinces. Claudius wanted to minimize the influence of the Hebrews, but their influence only increased. This is why Olisipo was advised by the head of the lone troops not to mingle too much with the politics and economics in Britain, because it might lead to suspicion by the authorities. And that might lead to conflict within the administration of Britain. Also, one of the elders from Jehuda town reminded him even though the leadership of Jehuda town and its territory are Hebrew, most of its civilians are not. Do not provoke the Roman government in Britain, because they might send their navy to occupy us or even worse, to annex us into their Roman province. Olisipo didn't expect the Romans to expand the British province to Aragos, yet he did acknowledge that the elder made a valid point. The fact that they sent 75 lone troops was not an act of generosity. It was more, as the elder said, the Romans want to show you how superior they are in military and economic strength. That's why they offer some soldiers to make clear that they can find you and bring you down when you become a hindrance unto them. They could have sent 200 troops to war with us too. And conquer us. They didn't. King Olisipo stationed 50 of the troops in the town and 20 he commanded to patrol on horses around the borders of his territory. Furthermore, within 3 months he established treaties with other Scandinavian princes in Scandia, southern Sweden, Cimbria, Denmark, and Suomi, Finland. The troops received weekly supplies from Britain by the Gaulish navy. Paia now lived with Aga in the palace. She chose the former room of Eveli. Eveli herself lived now in Cimbria with her husband who is childless, and neither is Eveli capable of conceiving anymore. From the original envoy 12 men were sent back to function as a consulate in Camalodunum. 6 months after the takeover of Ati, his region flooded with migrants from the northern places of Argos. They were mostly fishermen, who wanted to settle in the shores of his territory, due to the abundance of fish present at those shores. They were all permitted. At the same time there were many Israelites from Cimbria and Phrygia migrated to Argos, within his territory. They brought with him their gold, silver and their food supplies. This all enriched the region of King Olisipo. His father, who was now called Olisipo the Elder, said to him, "Didn't I tell you not to marry Ludo's daughter? If you did you would have become a king consort. And she would have ruled over you. Or worse. She might have cheated on you with that Roman soldier who would have left her anyway after he was done using her. Or she might have kicked you out and replaced you with him. Where would that have left you? My intention was to spare you the trouble of being exploited and to prevent the damage of being taken advantage of." Philia has permitted herself to be exploited for years in some disgusting ways. Victims of exploitation, if they are not delivered from their past, will become exploiters themselves when victimizing others. They often won't do this consciously, because they themselves are repulsed of what they went through. But the demos inside them will use their traumas to inflict traumas on others through them without the host being aware of it. Didn't you think it was a bit odd that she wanted to seduce you? From all the other men available. I'm not saying she's evil, I'm just saying she's not to be trusted yet. Now you are a king instead of her servant boy. Do to her as you please. 14. 2 years and 8 months after the establishment of King Olisipo's domain, he was challenged by a Cimbria chief. He appeased the chief by paying silver. At this time, there was a new Roman governor in Britain. The Paris district was completely subjected to at this time. King Olisipo had one son, Timothy, at this time that he begot with his wife Sarah. Verita at this time still lived in the palace and she spent weekends on the farmhouse. One day there were some robbers that robbed one of the villages. The robbers were from Cimbria. This led to a short war between Argos as a whole and Cimbria. At the beginning of his conflict, there was a young sailor that sailed inside the fjord where Verita's house was. He had a lot of silver jewelry that he wanted to sell in Argos. He, however, hearing that there was war in Argos, wanted to leave. At his departure he saw a young woman near a large house. He got to shore and compelled her to come. The sailor, who was a Rhaetian-born half-Israelite, had a small house in Britain. He was a harbour employer in Gaul and he heard of a soldier named Jared who visited a Hebrew-led Argoa town in Argos. So he wanted to check it out for himself after he constructed his house in Britain. Little did he know that the woman he rescued from the war was well known to that Roman soldier. The decisions of Claudius brought big disasters for the stability of Gaul. Formerly, Gaul was the shores of Gaul were the border of the empire and therefore of the civilized world. Gaul, despite the low population, remained a wealthy province for Rome. Yet, now that Britain is in the picture, the importance of Gaul will diminish. With the lower relevance of Gaul, the minorities within Gaul, the Hebrew Christians and their converts from the pagan nations, would gain more freedom and space to become dominant in towns and eventually over larger regions. Also, nobody was checking who was migrating to Britain at this time. So many seekers of a better life were entering Britain without any border patrol checking on them. Poor ghetto folk would just cross the sea with false documents and they could become employed within the government and with the local client kings. A chaos it was. Yet the chaos was a blessing in disguise. Just as Jared's rejection of Verita was a blessing in disguise. She was now blinded to a wealthy husband without realizing it.